Let us try to solve comprehensive problems 7-3 and 7-4. So it is not just a matter of computing them, you also have to interpret them. So let's get into comprehensive problem 7-3 first. Here's the problem. You have been asked to investigate some cost problems in the assembly department of Ruthenium Electronics Company, a consumer electronics company. Begin your investigation, you have obtained the following budget performance report for the department for the last quarter. As you can see in the information, it seems that the assembly department has incurred some unfavorable variances in terms of their direct labor time and direct materials quantities. The total amount is $157,500 unfavorable variance, where they seem to have utilized and spent more time into the assembly than what was expected. Here we have additional information on the other departments, and they are doing quite well compared to the assembly. The purchasing department is a favorable direct materials price variance. The fabrication department has a favorable direct labor time variance, and they also incurred zero variance in their direct materials quantities. In response to the unfavorable variance of the assembly department, an interview was made with the supervisor. They have been asked to explain the poor performance, and they admit that they are having trouble meeting their standards, and they do not seem to know why. And they cited some problems where the materials they requisitioned from the material storeroom, take note, purchasing departments in charge of purchasing the materials, the parts don't fit. They had to scrap some, so they are taking time sorting to the purchased parts. And they cited that the fabrication department has been making poor quality materials as of late. 20% of the stuff coming from fabrication can't be assembled. So based on the information, our instruction is to interpret the variance reports in light of the comments by the assembly department supervisor. So let's visualize again the problem. The purchasing department incurred a favorable price variance in terms of direct materials. The fabrication department has zero variance in its direct materials, while a favorable time variance in its direct labor. And the assembly department incurred both unfavorable variances for direct labor and direct materials. Now we interpret this scenario as the company buying lower quality raw materials. Since the purchased materials are of lower cost, the purchasing department was able to have a favorable price variance. But it does not explain why the fabrication has zero variance in terms of quantity, since using the lower quality materials would entail more rejects in their fabrication. We noticed, however, that the time variance is favorable for fabrication. That can only mean that fabrication had been accepting the cheap materials as is and has been making poorly made materials for assembly without taking time and attention. And now we have been able to build the story why assembly department has an unfavorable variance in its direct materials and labor, all stemming from the decision to buy lower quality raw materials. If we are a manager looking at this variance, we might be quick to blame the assembly that they are all incompetent. But what really happened was a decision to buy low cascaded into a pit of problems for assembly, thereby affecting the whole company. Next, we move on to comprehensive problem 7-4. Vanajam Audio Incorporated is a small manufacturer of electronic musical instruments. The plant manager received the following variable factory overhead report for the period. So we noticed that they have an unfavorable variable overhead controllable variance. The plant manager is not pleased with the 12,320 unfavorable variable factory overhead controllable variance and has come to discuss the matter with the controller. The following discussion occurred. So the manager was asked what was the problem and reacted to the large variance and claimed that the approach for accounting variable costs is based on the units produced. We allege that they are fixed just because such variable cost does not go down when they are operating at low capacity. So the instruction is, if you were in the controller's position, how would you respond to the plant manager? So this is a simple problem. So our response will also be simple. Efficiencies or inefficiencies depends on the cost driver. Take note that in terms of any costing, whether the job order, process, and activity-based costing, we often apply our factory overhead with a predetermined overhead rate based on an activity. The most common of this activity is based on direct labor hours. So we follow with this. Efficiencies or inefficiencies depends in the use of the base or cost driver. So the cost is really not variable to the units produced. Instead, the cost is only variable to how we use the base or cost driver. So that ends the two comprehensive problems. Thank you for listening.